I am Sonia Kelman. I am a internal audit business partner at Harbour Energy, and I completed my law degree at the University of Aberdeen back in 2012.
Thank you very much. And why did you decide to go to Aberdeen University?
Aberdeen University was my local university. I'm based in a small village called St Cyrus, about 30 miles south
Mhm.
of Aberdeen. And I went to several campuses and looked around and looked at the prospectuses and decided that, Aberdeen was local, but it was also the best option for me. And it was by far the nicest campus I visited.
Yeah. And why did you choose law?
Why did I choose law? So I chose law on the basis that it was a broad discipline that I could take into various different avenues at the end of it. I originally wanted to study aeronautical engineering. Um,
Mhm.
so law was quite a change from that, but in my head it made sense at the time with the subjects that I was interested in and kind of what I saw my life
Mhm.
doing moving forward.
Interesting. And what are some of your favorite memories from Aberdeen being a student from social life?
So I went to university when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
So my first year at university involved a lot of getting thrown out of pubs. Um,
Yes.
but no, I had a lot of good times at the University of Aberdeen. But I guess the standout highlight was always completion of exams, crossing the road and going over to the Bobbin, basically as a whole year group.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was probably a highlight.
Yeah, thank you. And could you please, if you had to summarize your career, what would be key milestones in your journey?
I guess every role I've had has been a bit of a milestone, and I've not really held the same sort of role for lengths of time. So I went into the legal sector and I learned a lot about kind of working with the public, that public interface, and very quickly realized that
Yeah.
that wasn't going to be for me. And then kind of, but if it wasn't for that role, I wouldn't have spoken to the people that I spoke to get the kind of insight that, pursuing a career in oil and gas and HSE might have been for me.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, even though that was a learning point that was something I didn't want to do, it directed me to something that I did want to do, which was going to oil and gas. And the various roles that I've held, health and safety has taught me so much about people and the
Yeah.
importance of people and risk management and all that sort of side of things. And then kind of coming out of HSE, working in performance management and assurance and actually building management systems and project management.
Mhm.
I've just had such broad exposure to the kind of extent of the industry, if you like, and how the different pieces work, and working for service companies, working for
Yeah.
operators, working with entities in different regions in the
Mhm.
Middle East, getting to go out to shipyards in the Far East. It's all kind of had defining moments of just growth and I guess continuing to do different things to keep learning.
Yeah, interesting. That's very impressive. And so, how does your typical day looks like at the moment? What are your key responsibilities?
So at the moment, I do primarily audit activities. So I
Mm-hmm.
take it from kind of planning, working with stakeholders to understand what the risks are in their areas, what their maturity is like, what processes and procedures they have in place, um, putting an appropriate team in place, and that can involve working with internal stakeholders, but it can also involve working with co-source partners, and then actually going and executing an audit, which is a bit of a baptism of fire because you have a topic that you've never worked in before
Mm-hmm.
normally, and you have to learn all about really quickly to be able to understand what's working well, what the risks are, what controls are in place to manage those risks, and then where the breakdowns and the gaps are, and then work with the management team and leadership to work out what appropriate actions would be to close those gaps. So it's really a diverse picture. I mean, it's taken me offshore.
Mm-hmm.
So there isn't really 2 days that look the same, which is really what I
Yeah.
like about the role. Um, but working with stakeholders, everything between offshore operations, executing the tasks, and taking it right up to the leadership team and the board.
Interesting. And you mentioned that you worked in a few different regions, yes? And how is like working culture different in them? And what are some key challenges you noticed?
Yeah, so I am fortunate to have always been based in the UK, or unfortunate,
Yeah.
depending on how you
Yeah.
look at it. But I have had opportunities to travel
Mm.
and work with different cultures, as you say. And I think there's a real difference in approach that needs to be taken
Yeah.
with different cultures, because I think, I'm kind of in a place where if somebody says something or disagrees with something, they feel comfortable speaking up. And I think it took me a while to realize that not all cultures
Yeah.
are in that place. Not all
Mhm.
cultures will feel comfortable standing up and saying, I don't believe that's correct, or
Mhm.
even just saying, no, that's not how things work here. So it's from an audit perspective, it's the way you structure questions. So in the
Mhm.
UK, you can perhaps get off with more leading questions that
Yeah.
you can kind of look to get your point across. But with maybe say Asian cultures, if you ask a leading question, you will get the answer yes. You have to ask really open questions
Mhm.
to not lead the auditee to believe that you are
Yeah.
looking for a particular answer. So I think it's just an appreciation that
Mhm.
we're not all the same, and we don't all have the same background and the same things that we're comfortable doing. And I think having grown up outside Aberdeen and gone to uni in
Yeah.
Aberdeen and always worked in Aberdeen, that takes a bit of effort to kind of spend
Yeah.
the first few days working with people to understand and build relationships.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Could you please tell us a bit more about your impressive involvement with charities?
Yeah, so I mean, my involvement with charities probably actually started when I was a child.
Mhm.
That I was always encouraged to kind of give back and was always fortunate to be able to. So, I have memories of being a child selling jam and honey that was made on a local farm to raise funds for charity. So, as I progressed through my career, there's ebbs and flows in your capacity to do things like that. So I had an opportunity came up to join the board of Aberdeen Cyrenians, and I was fortunate to get that opportunity and work with a charity which is making a difference within
Mhm.
Aberdeen, and in itself that's given me opportunities to sit on the board and hear and learn and influence decision making and strategy in that space. But it's also given me opportunity to get involved with things like the CEO Sleep Out, which was back in April, where
Mhm.
there was a number of leaders from Aberdeen slept out in Cove Rangers football park, Balmoral Park, to raise funds, which was a
Mhm.
nice wet day, but we raised somewhere in the region of £72,000 for local
Wow.
charities. And it also gave me the opportunity to participate in the Kilt Walk this year.
That's
So yeah,
amazing.
yeah, it's been
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, that's very interesting and impressive. And the next question is, what are some key challenges or trends do you see in the oil and gas energy industry in the North Sea since you work there?
Yes, I mean, I don't think it's a secret that the oil and gas industry, particularly in Aberdeen in the UK, is hurting.
Yeah.
Um, the energy profits levy put in place at a time where the industry was booming made sense. The industry is no longer booming. We're no longer in that high commodity price environment, and it's really sad and disheartening. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of companies that are kind of in the place of making significant headcount reduction, um, decline potentially more rapidly than it otherwise would have been, and
Mhm.
assets that could have been viable for a bit longer now having their cessation of production dates brought forward. I think that's probably the biggest challenge for the sector, certainly in the UK, kind of balancing the need for sustainability, which I think everybody in the industry absolutely gets, but
Mhm.
with the need for energy security for the UK, cost effective energy, and this policy that's currently in place, and the behaviour that that's going to drive
Mhm.
is only going to lead to greater imports of less clean energy. So it
Mhm.
feels it feels self defeating, and I think there's the industry has done a really good job, and OUK have done a really good job of standing up and making sure the points are heard. But it's just not
Yeah.
clear yet whether that impact is going to once you start decommissioning projects and things, it's hard to come back from. So
Yeah.
is 2030 going to be too far away to make a difference, or does it need to be
Mm.
something, today, now,
Yeah.
to stop the decline, and turn it around for the industry? So yeah, it's a real worrying time for everybody in the industry, and for Aberdeen.
Yeah, I see. Thank you very much for your answer. And what would you say was the proudest moment in your career?
Proudest moment in my career, I think I've got a good number of moments that I'm exceptionally proud of, but I think the one that stands out for me was kind of completion of my MBA in
Hmm.
parallel to working full time. So I was at Petrofac at the time. I was working as business performance manager. My daughter was fairly little, and it was really a test of endurance, but
Yeah.
also resilience and kind of
Hmm.
ability to just keep going and work your way through it and still do a good job. I'm
Yeah.
not entirely sure I would recommend it to anybody, but I think it is a sense of pride that I was able to do it, and I did manage to overcome um, that that challenge.
Very well done. The next question is, what advice do you have for students who are looking to get into your career field, like internal audit and anything related to that?
I just internal audit's probably a career that I didn't know existed
Yeah.
until 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, and the way I've got there is just by saying yes to opportunities, and
Hmm.
you know get building a breadth of experience that you can then take forward into audit. Now, I have a non-traditional path into internal audit.
Yeah.
Lots of people that do kind of finance background go and work at one of the big four. They get
Hmm.
qualified and they go and do it. I've taken a different approach of kind of you know getting oversight of everything, or getting a bit of experience of lots of different things, and then being able to take that experience into internal audit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's applicable to anybody that wants to work in any field of, you know, look for opportunity, and when it comes up, just don't be scared to say yes to it.
That's a great advice. And are there any books or podcasts you would recommend for our students? It might be something career or non-career related. Maybe there are some books which are just inspirational for your motivational.
I don't know if it's inspirational or motivational, but I'll say it anyway because I genuinely believe that
Mm-hmm.
this book played a role in changing my life, which sounds quite dramatic for me. And it's Ultra Processed People, which
Mm-hmm.
is a bit of a random choice. So it's basically about processed food, and the fuel that you put into the body and how that
Yeah.
affects your performance. And I I've had various experiences in the last kind of 5 years that have really taught me that your career doesn't run in isolation. Your career is part of you as a whole, and you need to look after the whole of you. So, how you feel yourself, how you do your exercises, because you can work 15 hours a day. It doesn't make
Mm-hmm.
you effective. You
Yeah.
need that balance of, looking after you, doing your career, working hard, everything, and it all has to kind of be in sync
Yeah.
to be the person who can deliver.
Interesting. Very interesting. And would you say networking is important in your type of career? And if yes, what's your advice for students how they can utilize networking to benefit themselves?
Yeah, so I think if somebody had said the word networking to me as a student, I might have gone in head. But I do think it is really important, and I think you know we had career ready students in our office who were young people in their fifth and sixth year at school, and that was the thing that they took away was the opportunity to build a network. And I think there's so much opportunity in Aberdeen. There's so many young professionals networks,
Mhm.
be it in oil industry or out with, and I think they're just you know life is all about those connections, and that's part of what we've done with the Future Industry Leaders Program Network. Is all about building connections, and you know those connections have delivered so much for the industry, but also for the individuals. And I mean, it's for me that network and various other networks have kind of exponentially given me that boost, and given me the opportunity to speak to
Mhm.
government ministers and all sorts of people that just I wouldn't have seen at my stage in career if it wasn't for those networking opportunities.
Thank you. And the last question is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Be patient.
Be
And
patient.
I probably still need that advice now. But yeah, be patient, and you know, sometimes pushing really hard for things is absolutely necessary, but sometimes you need to know when to take your foot off the gas and
Hmm.
wait for the opportunity
Yeah.
and be primed for when it's there.